my birthday today. Yippee! And so today we are going to be making a beautiful scrap quilt. I have already started getting all my bits and bobs together. So come with me, come with me. What was that about? I'm gonna calm down. I'm gonna calm down because I don't know what's that excitement about. So let's get started on something really beautiful and fantastic. All right guys, so we are at the sewing machine now, and as you can see, it is a beautiful day outside. Let me show you what it looks like, what I'm staring at. So as you know, we have moved to country Australia, and so the only motion I saw for the morning is the rubbish truck coming to pick up all the collections. So that's the only excitement that I've seen. The birds are as noisy. Oh, and oh my gosh, I just decided to do a little bit of a vacuum and I saw a big bug. I don't know where the bug came from. I don't know how it got in here. Out of every other room in the house, it chose to come into my space. Why? Why my space? I just don't know. Anyway, let me show you outside. I'm just gonna grab it and just turn. So that is outside. As you can see, there ain't much happening, isn't there? So yeah, I've got the window open, but there's a net there. So hopefully nothing flies in through the net. But this is country Australia for you. All right, so we're gonna get started. I'll put you back to me. Okay, so in order to make this quilt, what we need to do is get three, I think it's three, is it three or four? Four. Because I have already made some of this. So these are the blocks we're going to make. That is what it's going to look like once we cut them into pieces, all right? So we need 4, and what I have been doing is really working in the order of don't worry about it. That's the order I have been choosing then. The order of it is what it is, it will come together beautifully. One thing I love, well, there's more than one thing, but another concept for me when you're using or making quilts with scrap fabrics is the fact that, you know, it all goes together, doesn't it? So try not to worry about making sure the color is correct. Now I'm using a, my brain just went dead. Well, not literally, but I forgot what this fabric is again. Batiks. I'm gonna have a drink. Water. This water I'm having. No alcohol yet. It's only early in the morning. It's 10:47. So no alcohol yet. Is it too early on your birthday to have a drink? Is it? When is the safest time to have a drink on your birthday? I mean, you don't need a time for your birthday, isn't it? Just, you know, yippee, cherry for me. So I'm going to sew these 2 batiks together. I'm using one that has that jagged edge. Can you see it? Jagged edge. I'm going to put it together. What I am going to do though is line up that straight cut in the valley of that jagged edge, all right? So that it stays and it sews together evenly, because realistically, that 2.5 inches in width is literally between the jagged edge, not the tip, all right? So just bear that in mind. So I'm gonna sew them front sides together, and I'm just gonna continue sewing all the way down until I get to the end of the jelly roll. Why the jelly roll? Because the jelly roll is the actual size of the width of fabric. Remember, a lot of these that I have cut is simply from cut off from the border, so they will be longer, but I'm going to use my jelly roll strip here as a point of where I need to stop rather than just continue to sew. All right, that should make sense, really. So as I said, I need to answer some questions, and I think there's about 4 or 5 of them, so I'm going to do that now. And I hadn't forgotten, guys, I was just waiting until the right time to do it. All right, guys, so the first question is from Alison Cameron. and she's asked, love your videos. What work does your husband do? And quite a few questions in this paragraph. What's the name of your channel, or sorry, his channel? And can we see any more of Caravan Adventures? What would love to see more about your life in Australia as well. And have I made any quilting friends? Okay, so thank you for loving my videos. That's really nice. I work really hard on them, to be honest. I do a lot of thought. I put a lot of thought and process thinking in how to plan the quilts and how I can communicate it to you effectively. So thank you so much. My husband works as an operations manager for a masseuse company. They make chairs and massaging things for your body, and so he sort of manages and operates the whole operation of the business. He loves his job. He's really excited about it. He always comes home and tell me about his staff and what he get up to. So he loves his job and he's really happy doing that. The name of his channel I can't remember at the moment, but he hasn't posted for a while. My husband is very camera shy. He always thinks he looks really terrible on camera. And I do feel though, when he goes on camera, he gets really serious. He's just this serious tone of face. I say, well, you need to relax. So I don't know if he'd ever come back with it, but funny enough, we had a little conversation. I said, would you ever go back and start it again? Because he did have a few little following, and his topics was more like what's going on in today's society, what is young people, you know, how people treat each other, what is economics, etc. So he always loves the sort of conversations, and you will find it if you ever conversate with him in any sort of worldly things, you know, he's there a long time. My husband's very friendly. He chats to anybody, whereas I'm a little bit more reserved, but he will chat to anyone and have long-winded conversations with them. But I'm just a little bit more step back. I take a little bit longer. I'll say hi and be friendly, of course, but whereas he will have this long-winded conversation, I'll probably say 2-3 words and I'm over with, you know. But yeah. So that's that. The other part of the question was any more caravan adventures. We intend to do a little bit more traveling at some point, but I don't know when. Because when we started the whole caravan thing, we weren't working. We've only just arrived in Australia, and we decided we wanted to go and travel and see a lot of Australia, because Australia is absolutely beautiful. And so we really wanted to do that and experience, especially for me, because my husband lived in Australia before. He's really the Australian, really, and I hadn't. So he really wanted to show me what Australia was like, you know, rather than just come to Melbourne, get a job, and just started working. Excuse me. So so we have talked about that, because we do want to take a holiday, but we don't want to leave Australia. We want to go on holiday in Australia. And that's the amazing thing about Australia. There's so many areas to go on holiday. You don't need to leave Australia to go on holiday. So that's our plan. But when we do that, obviously you guys will come along, because you would know. So yeah, so that's a definite. That is on the plan for this year, because we really want to take a break. I know he is tired, and I can do with a break as well, because since I've stopped working, I still feel really exhausted, you know. And so yeah, so that's it. So we intend to do that. And to see more about my life in Australia, I intend to go around, take the camera, and show you exactly where I live. We live in a small town in Australia, and when I say it's a small town, it's a small town. There is no high street. There is no mall. I mean, the first day when I woke up, the next morning, the realization hit me as like, what have we done? Because where we lived before, it wasn't the city, but it was a suburb, and it had everything, you know. So here it's, right now I'm having to, if I want any fabric, I have to have it delivered to me, because the next store is, I think, 30 kilometers away. Yeah, it's about 30 kilometers away just to go to the store. So the local area, it's probably about, I don't want to lie, probably about 10, 15 shops. I wouldn't say store, shops, like corner shops. small little gift stores and, gift shops, I should say. Supermarket, don't love it too much because I miss the big supermarket where you can get any and everything. So I was complaining that there isn't much variety. So yeah, so that's that. I mean, but I intend to take you around so you can see what it's like. I mean, it's literally, it is literally 5 minutes down the road. And I say 5 minutes, there's no traffic. So you ain't gonna be stuck in no traffic. You jump in the car, you drive out, you're there in literally less than 5 minutes, probably less than 5 minutes. And it's a place where everybody knows you. So there ain't much black folk like me living in this town. I remember, give you a joke. The first time I went to the supermarket, I saw everybody staring at me like, yippee, oh, here we go. I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I was like, yippee, here we go. But people were really friendly, I must admit. It feels really friendly, and the men kind of stare at me, but the women always say hello and they smile and stuff like that. I think the second time, this lady said, "Oh, hi, we meet again." And I was like, "Hi." You sure remembered me, but I remembered her. And I can see why she remembered me. I mean, very much people look like me here. So yeah, I stand out, And she's like, "How are you?" And I'm like, "I'm fine, thank you." And she's like, "We must meet again." And I was like, "Okay, see ya." But she was beautiful and friendly as ever, But as I said, it is a small town. When I drive into town, and the thing is, the car I drive is a Mustang, and so you see me, oh, that's a black girl that lives around the corner. But as I said, people are really cool, people are really cool and friendly, and so that's it. But it's a nice little town. It's very peaceful. At night, you can hear all the animals, and that's not a bad thing. So it's very relaxing. It's really what we talked about when we were in England. What we really wanted. We didn't really want to buy a house in the city or in the suburb. We really wanted to have a home whereby we were out of the chaos really, and so that's what we did. So we really achieved our dream basically. In terms of if I've made any quilting friends, no, I haven't. I know I have some local subscribers. When I say local, I mean Australian subscribers. Most of my subscribers are in the US. I do have subscribers in the UK. Hi, UK girls and guys. And I do have a few in India and Germany, obviously Australia. The Australia is building. It never used to be so high, but it's my third most viewed area. So it's the US, UK, Australia. I think I do have some New Zealand as well, but it trickles down. But no, I haven't made any quilting friends. I only attended one craft fair, I would call it. I didn't really see any quilting. I did see a lot of sewing and stuff like that. There are some quilting festivals, exhibitions, etc. But because Australia is such a huge, and I emphasize the word huge place, it is not always convenient to just drive there and go, it's either a day trip or a 2-day trip or a plane flight away, so that's the idea. So that's it really. So I hope I've answered your question. There was quite a lot in that one, Alison. So the next question was what brand of sewing machine that I use. Now, I use the Brother for sewing or piecing, or if I'm making a bag or anything else, I sit down and sew. So I use the Brother Innovis for this one. I have two, I should say, review on this particular machine. But for quilting, I use my Quilter's Choice. I had to bend down to look at it. My Quilter's Choice. The throat space on that, I think it's about 10 inches. The throat space on this one is probably about 6 to 8. I could be wrong. probably 6 inches. So the throat space is measured from the needle to the wall of the actual sewing machine. So this is about 6, I think, possibly. I can't remember. I haven't got the tape next to me. But the Quilter's Choice I stand in. So I've done one unboxing review on that, and it's a beautiful, 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 beautiful quilting machine. So it allows me to quilt really fast. The throat space, as I said, is really big, so it gives you that movement of freedom. I actually bought that in Australia here, and when I bought this, I was looking for a sewing machine that can do both jobs. This does quilt as well beautifully. However, because the throat space is bigger on that one, it's a lot more easier to actually to quilt on. However, this one is more expensive. I paid pounds for this. I think I paid about £3,000 for this. And for the one in Australia, which is a Quilter's Choice, I paid 1,000 Australian dollars for it. Now, what I would say is that when I first saw it, when I came to Australia, it was priced at $700. And that was an offer. The actual price was 1,000. But I tell you, no lie at all. I think I was the reason why it has actually gone up in price, because it is now 1,500 Australian dollars. Ever since I did the review, it has got a lot of views for people from Australia and people from abroad. And so I think, because I haven't seen it anywhere else, I only see Spotlight selling it. So I bought it from Spotlight, and I think that's the reason why it has not gone down. Before, you would see for 700, you might even see 650, and then after the sale offer is over, you go back to 1,000. But it never went over 1,000. And since I did that review and the views started going on, and it just, I think they realized I did them a favor there. So Spotlight, if you're watching, hook me up. Hook a girl up. Hook me up, all right? So I can get some deals for my subscribers. Come on, we're doing the work for you. So that was that. So that's the idea with the machines. Both of them don't give me any issues. One of the reasons why I don't quilt on this, because I don't want to kill it. All right? I don't want to kill it. Because quilting can kill your machine. If you're quilting on a regular basis, it can kill it, in the sense that it's been overworked. So that is why I piece here and I quilt there, because this get a break, that get a break. That's how I actually work it. Because I think machinery, they still need resting, cleaning, tidying, servicing. They need that love. So so that is what I do. So I will do the piecing here, as I said, and I will quilt there. And so I think that it balances out, you know, so the machines are not being overworked. So once, the very first time I did set up the Quilter's Choice for quilting, it's manual. This is computerized. So once I did set it up, I never did interfere with it again. So I can just jump on it and I know the settings is correct, and I can just continue to quilt. So that's what I do. I hope that answers your question. Okay. And do I like living in Australia? And this is from LBMOM12. Do I like? I do love living in Australia, actually. My husband asked me the other day, do I have any regrets of moving? He asks me all the time. No, I don't, actually. I have no regrets. I don't get homesick in any way, shape or form. As far as I'm concerned, Australia is my home now. And when I made a decision to go, I made a decision. I'm not the type of person to make a decision and step back. I think, oh, I don't look back. It's a yes. If I say yes, I mean yes. If I say no, I mean no. That's how my brain works. So I do enjoy living here. It's exciting. At the beginning, it was exciting. It was new. But now it's just home. And there's still a lot of places, many places that I haven't gone to. The driving in Australia here can be a little bit risky. The drivers, especially the young people, they are very impatient. There's a rough era of driving, aggressive, and I don't really like driving too much on the road. So the countryside just suits me fine. But if I have to, I will go. But other than that, I do like living in Australia. I do. It's, as I said, it's home now, and I really enjoy it. And my husband and I are really happy here. My daughter is here with us, and my last child, Keenan, is here with us. My daughter's name is Marisha, and my eldest son name is Kadeem. So Kadeem is still in England, and my other two, my daughter's here on a year visa, work visa, and my son is here, and I think on a 4-year visa, because he is a professional chef, and he was employed from the UK to come to Australia. Same with my daughter. So yeah, so that's it on that personal sort of area. Right, let me see. What else is there? The last question is, what got me to Australia? And have I always been a craft person? So the first part of that question is from Yeshowi. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I haven't, forgive me. What got me to Australia? What got me to Australia was my husband, obviously, was here before. He came back to England and we met. Long story short, we met on a dating site. Not ashamed to say that at all. And it took a while for us to actually. We talked for a while, I think for about 3 months or so, and I think after that 3 months we ended up meeting, and then the whole shebang. We met up, we had coffee, and then we didn't talk for each other for a while, and then we started talking again, and things started going well from there. And then we got married, etc. And then my sister passed. It was a really sad time for me. It was very difficult. I was really unhappy, and I think my husband noticed that, and I needed something to bring me back to myself. And he asked, would you like to go live in Australia? Would you like to move to Australia? And I was like, no, I'm not leaving my kids. So that was the answer. But I had to think. I think God spoke to me, and I said to myself, you know what? Life is short. Let me say yes. And that was it. So one day we were having dinner, and I said, that question you asked me about moving to Australia? And you went, yes. And I just said, let's go. And he said, you sure? And I said, that was it. I said, yeah. And that was literally, it was just a simple 5-minute conversation. That a question he asked like 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, if not longer, I said no. And then when my sister passed, I just realized that sometimes you gotta take opportunities by the hand and run with it. Let's just see where it takes you. And sometimes it's a way of God speaking to you, and you being sort of what's the word? I would say bush-headed. And I use that term because sometimes we fill our heads with too much conversations that we're not giving ourselves clarity to just let the simple information, transition to us. Is like morphed into us. And sometimes we just block it out by all these questions and what ifs and be fearful. So I decided was to take a chance, and that was it. And I must admit, I am 110% happy that we did that. So so that's literally it, really, guys, of the questions that you asked. I don't think there's any more. It was just those 3 people that asked those questions. So that was really nice, guys. So thank you for asking me those questions. It was really nice to sort of open up. So if any of you out there have any more questions, by all means, just simply ask. I am happy to answer. All right, so let's get back to the quilting now. So I'm almost done with this. What I'm going to do is make a couple more, and I'll show them to you in a minute. All right, so I have cleared up a little bit of the mess so that there's a little bit more clarity. And I don't like to work if it's untidy. It just makes me feel a little bit cluttered. So I'm just lining up the edge of the fabric here, and I'm just going to cut it into 2.5. I'm going to fold it so that it goes really quickly. Alright guys, so I have stitched all of my strip sets together. So when you're doing yours, as I said, just choose any combination of color. However, I have been choosing 3 dominant colors and 1 of my lights, for example. So as I said, I consider this a light, so that's what I've been doing. The layout doesn't really matter. When I say the layout, what order you put them in is not important, okay? It is a scrap quilt, so keep it scrappy. That's the best part of it. Once you've done that and you've sewn your strip set together, what you need to do is to sew them front sides together, making sure that they're lovely and flat. Once you've done that, you need now to create a tube. So to create the tube, what we're going to do is stitch along that open area all the way down, and then we're going to start cutting. All right, so I'm going to get that done, and when I come back, we're going to start cutting into desired shapes or blocks. Okay, before we get started with the cutting, I just wanted to explain something. Now, I have already started cutting my strip tube here, and I've already laid down my ruler. But before I actually demonstrate to you, I wanted to explain to you what marking I am using on this particular ruler. Now, when you're making a strip tube, which is what this is, you need to ensure that you have a special ruler, and it's called a strip tube ruler, okay? In this particular instance, we don't need it. If you have it at to hand, brilliant. If you don't have it, don't worry about it, all right? We're going to use a little bit of common sense to make our cuts. Now I have a 6.5-inch ruler here, and we're going to use that. Now normally, and I'll explain why I'm saying normally, your strip tube should be able to fall within from this middle line here to the top. Okay, now in our instance, ours fall short because we have only stitched 4 together. All right, to make our tube. So what I want you to bear in mind when I'm explaining how to do the cut is that I am going to be using a particular point on the ruler that will still give me an accurate cut. So for example, when you are using your strip tube ruler normally, and you're going to use this particular ruler or any ruler that has that long line from point to point in it, you can use that, all right? You don't necessarily need to go and buy the strip tube ruler. The objective normally is to line up this particular line on your line there, on your stitch line. So you will do that, okay? I'm just going to move that up so you can understand what I'm saying, all right? So you will do that. And I'm going to back out just a little bit. Okay, so you will line this long line here on the stitch line there, okay, and then you will make your particular cut. But as I said before, if I were to do that, I will not have a tip there. I need that particular point. All right, so in this instance, what I have opted to do is to use these markings here, and I'm going to just get my ruler back in shot, and I'm going to zoom in so that you can see exactly what I'm referring to, and I think that's fine there. So what I have used is this point here, here, and here, and here. That runs all the way along the ruler, okay, and I'm going to point out. And now you can make any reference, okay, on your ruler to cut yours. But the reference I'm using is the reference here. You see it there again? Okay, that reference there again, right? I'm using that reference all the time there. This one here, this one here, this one here, this one there, okay? I hope that makes sense to you. So what I have done in this instance is to line up that marker that I've just pointed out to you there. Just trying to make sure I get it literally. So if you notice, this line now is on the edge there. So I'm using the middle line here now on the edge of the fabric itself, but it's still sticking out. It's still telling me it's not sitting there. I need it to sit right to the end there. Okay, now please don't say to me this is difficult, because this really isn't. It is just using an area on the ruler that works for you. So if I line it up there, okay, and I have made sure that the points that I pointed out to you is literally on that stitch line, and if I know it's on the stitch line and I can see my cut angle nicely here, then it's okay for me to cut there. Let me demonstrate to you properly what that looks like so you understand what I'm saying. Alright guys, so I've zoomed out, as you can tell. Now I am right-handed, so I'm going to start on the right side. Okay, now I'm going to bring my ruler back in and I'm going to line it up. Now the most important thing here is that once you have your first cut, then you are good. All right, now you need to make your cuts in the sense that, let me just bring this back like so that you understand. So I've lined it up there and this is my first cut. So again, line it up using, if you want to, okay, and you have, let me give another option. And if you have, excuse me, a 6.5 inch ruler, because I don't think a 5 inch is going to sit there, because I do have a 5 inch and it doesn't. You probably need a 5.5, all right? So, but the 6.5 inch works in the reference that now that center line from point to point sits on the raw edge here. All right, so that's where it's lined up on the raw edge, and I've also used those marking points where I see the grid lines come together to form a straight line. Okay, and I'm going to line it up here. I'm just trying to get this back so that so I've already made my first cut. Okay, so when you make your cuts, you need to keep them in separate groups. So that's one cut there with the point coming towards me. I'm going to line it up again using the two markers I've mentioned. So number one, making sure that that long line that runs from point to point on the ruler is on the raw edge. Okay. I'm also checking that that point where I said I want to have that marker just to ensure that everything is straight is there also. And then I'm going to cut. Now, cutting is going to be a little bit awkward because you're turning the ruler upside down, right side up, upside down, right side up every time in order to get your cut. All right. So if you have a table, you can walk around, but I would normally, but because I'm filming, I'm not going to. So I'm going to take my time and cut this because I know I'm already in an awkward position, and just take my time and cut it. Now there is a lot of seams here, so just take your time, and I'm going to do a little bit more cutting here because I'm cutting at a really weird angle. All right, I'm just taking my time and do it. And one more at the base there. All right, so now I'm going to leave this one there. Keep them separated. So coming back again to this side, I'm going to turn it and making sure that this line now is at the top of the raw edge, just as I said before. Okay, making sure that the peak is up there and it's not like that, or it's not like that, so it's sticking over the ruler. That's incorrect. We need the top of the ruler to align to the corner where your peak is. All right, so I'm going to put that back next to the peak there, making sure it's lined up at the edge. And I'm simply going to do my next cut. And again, you hold it and nice and firmly, and you press down. That's my door slamming. I have my back door open. Okay, now this one goes there. Okay, let's do another one. So again, the long line, I'm going to put it right at the base of the raw edge. The raw edge is where the raw edge of the fabric meets, line at the tip, line at the bottom there. And what I'm going to do is check those markings that I told you about, and I can see that those markings are literally sitting on my stitch line. Once I've done that, I'm happy. I'm then going to go to my open position, press down really hard, and cut. That was a little bit better. Okay, now this one goes there. Okay, now the reason why it's so important because each of the cuts are different. Okay, so once we open up these blocks, you're going to get different formation with the colors. So it's imperative that you do not mix them up. All right. So again, I'm going to turn the ruler, making sure I'm cutting towards me. Now the point is towards me. When I do the other cut, it's away from me. So point towards me, point away from me. Keep them separate. Line it up yet again. I mean, the most concentrating part of this is this particular area that I'm telling you about here. Because all I'm doing right now is I'm speaking to you to make sure that everything is lined up. Now I would say this: if for some reason you feel like your angle is sticking out here, and the ruler is not sticking out, you can simply just move it along. Okay, move it along and get a fresh cut and continue. But you would notice it for yourself. Okay, you wouldn't have to guess. You would see that you need to make probably an extra cut to trim off an edge or so whereby it's not lining up properly. All right, I say that to you so just have a little bit of caution so that you know what to do. Okay, so happy with that. This is the most concentrated part here, it really is. I mean, once you've done all of this, everything's okay. All right, again, pointing towards me, they stack there. Then I'm going to turn the ruler now, pointing towards you, and get down there on the edge, make sure I bring it up. The point of the ruler, line the raw edge with the tube, and then the sides are lined up properly. The bottom here, I can see my marking. The middle line in the ruler is on the raw edge at the bottom here. So everything is lined up. The markings where I showed you here is lined up, so that tells me I'm good to go. I can now make my next cut. Hold that ruler nice and firm. And cut again. Pointing towards you, go to that stack there. Okay, and again, turning the ruler towards me, making that line again on the raw edge down there, lining it all up. Again, making sure those markings that I showed you on that stitch line. Okay, once it's on the stitch that I'm happy, what I'm going to do is cut now. And that goes there. So let's see how much I get. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. I've got one more. So ideally, you should get 4 of each. That's what you're aiming for. All right. So each pile should have 4. So therefore, your strip should give you 2 whole blocks once you put them together of 8 individual blocks. Okay. So I'll show you that in a minute. All right, so that's that. So that's now scrap. Okay, and this goes there. So let's open up these. So you're going to have a little bit of a thread to break through. So that's one cut from that pile, and the other pile there. And of course, what you need to do now is to simply give them a lovely press and trim off the dog ears. Okay, I'm sure you've heard that term before. All right, so let's open it so you can see they all are the same cuts. Every single one is the same cut here. And I'm going to put them all like that. Okay, if you're unaware what the dog ears are, it is simply that flap there that's sticking out. All right, so that's one set there. So this is one whole block. And you get 4 individual smaller blocks to make your big block. Now let's look at the extra cuts now, the other set. Again, you can see it's a different now. So this one, you have that flower pinkish yellow tones there on the end, whereby in this one, it's in the middle. All right, so that's that block. Hence the reason why you keep them separated. I mean, it's a very quick way of making blocks come together really nicely. They're all the same size. You don't have to do any squaring up. All right. So what I'm going to do now is to give these a good press. I'm not going to show you that because that's going to make the video much longer. A good steam press so that I make sure I open it up. As you can see that it relaxes there. So if I leave it, it just bunches up and it forms pleats in the middle. What we want is to really open up that block, and we need to trim off the dog ears. So I'm going to keep each pile together, and then what I'm going to do is show you how the block lays out. So I already have these ones already ironed here, and what I have done is pin them all together so I don't get them confused. So I have my 2 piles. So again, this is literally from one tube set. So I'm going to show you these ones and what you can do. So you can form any layout that you wish. You can turn them in like so. Let me just use the blue there and the yellow there. So you can do that with it. All right. You can do that and that, and these are mixed. I can see these are mixed up. that. Do you know how I can tell it's mixed up? Because I don't have the white tips here. I have red and white, red, white. And I have white, red, white, red. So I have mixed them up. By all means, you can do that. It makes it more scrappy. But in all honesty, I really want to have all the blocks together because I like that particular formation. So I'm going to turn these in so that you can see the difference. So if I have an extra one there, you can see that's an odd one. So if you mix it up, by all means, you should be able to identify the error quite quickly. Okay, so there is the block for that one there. So that's another formation. Okay, if you want to do the whites as I was going to show you before, you can. Okay, if you wanted to do 2 in, you can. All right, if you wanted to just make arrows with them, so arrows, arrows this way. Okay, it's up to you, but the more you play around, the more ideas you can get. You can mix it all in. So if I wanted to put the blue there and then go back into the yellow and get another arrow there, where is it? With the white I can, or these two like so. I mean, beautiful, absolutely. I'm looking in the mirror and it looks so amazing. Something so simple can produce something like this. So I'm going to go ahead now and get all the blocks together. I'm going to lay them all out and you can make this as big as you want. So it's time to square up. I'm using my big square ruler, which is about 12 inches in square. I reckon the block is approximately 11.5. I'm not going so much to square it up down. All I'm literally doing here is to trim the size of the block nice and neat. So if I turn it, you can see where it's slightly uneven there. I've got the dog ears sticking out as well as this side as well. So I'm just going to trim it off so all the edges are lovely and equal. It's important to do that. Don't miss this stage. The reason why I say that is because if you don't do that and you decide to go ahead and sew all the blocks together, you will find that the block will not lay flat on your table, all right? Or I should say not the block, the quilt top, because by this time you would have sewn it together. And I don't know if you've ever done this before, whereby you just say, you know what, can be bothered to square it up, it'll be fine. Yeah, we all have done, taking shortcuts and then we regret it. So trim the edges off to avoid it being lumpy. And not lumpy in the terms of texture, but in the terms of appearance, whereby you can see little air bubbles underneath and it's not laying flat on the table. That's the objective here. So if it's aerated underneath and it's not laying flat, it's because you decided I'm not going to trim and I'm going to sew it up. But when you trim and sew, everything sits and nests in a lot more easily, ensuring that the end result is a lot more quicker. I'm not saying that you cannot get away with it. Of course you can. It just makes it difficult. And the difficult part comes in is when you have to baste it, right? Because if it's aerated, it's not staying flat. When it goes on that batting, you will see it. You will see it where it's like slightly raised. And I know I've experienced that for myself. So I'm speaking from experience. So to avoid the stress, just simply trim it. So that's what we're going to do now. And trim all of them to the same size. Okay, making sure it's level up there and it's level to the side here as well. And hold it down nice and firm with your hand and trim. It's as simple as that. All right, once you've done one side, you just need now to do the other side. So I like to turn and then put it back down. I know this end here is done, so I'm going to go say 11.5 because I think that's where the block sits. I can see it. Right, so just 11.25. All right, and then align it up in the middle here because we've got 4 blocks together, isn't it? So I can see that straight line where the block is divided in half, so to speak. So I've got 2 on this side and 2 on that side, and I've got that straight stitch line. So I'm lining up the center point of that 11¼ right in the middle there, and use the edge and just trim it down nice and neat and tidy. You can also level off the middle there as well, where the 2 blocks come together. Okay, and just trim. At this point, I don't really want you to be concerned about taking off your points. We're not here, it's a scrap quilt. We're not here to worry about points. So please don't stress yourself about that. That's not what this quilt about. This is a strings quilt, a scrappy quilt, and we've certainly used up the fabrics to make something beautiful out of it. So don't go stressing yourself out about making sure that, you know, you don't cut the point off. If for some reason you had a mishap in the corner there where the points meet, and it's get trimmed off, it's trimmed off. Yeah, I always relate back to centuries ago when, you know, people before me was making quilts just to keep them warm and comfort. They weren't worried about whether or not the points was trimmed off. Okay, the objective of the quilt was that it is lovely, warm, satisfying to everybody who need to use it. That is the same objective I like to keep when I am making my quilts, so I don't stress myself out about those little things. That is so minute that the person admiring the beautiful quilt you've given to them, they don't even notice that, only you. There is this animal or bird that keeps making this noise. It's been making this noise for ages now. All night it's been going on, and even yesterday. This sort of calling it's making, I think it's a mating call it's making. It's annoying me, and it must be a man because it's been going on and on and on. I guarantee you, if she wanted to respond, she would have responded by now. My God, it's doing my head in. All right, I digress. Beautiful, nice and straight now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to turn this into a quilt as you go, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. But let me show you all of the trimmings here from all of the blocks I made. So I feel quite happy about that. Trimming is not my most exciting part about quilting, but I'll do it because it's necessary when it comes to basting. So let's move on now. Moving on to the layout of the blocks. So place them all on the table. And what I'm looking for at this point is to make sure that none of the blocks are too close to each other. Like for example, these 2 here, I don't like them together because they've got the same design together there. So I will swap those around. I think because it's scrappy, it might end up being a little bit on the tricky side because the colors now is what's the issue in getting all the tones and all the bright colors together. The blue is quite dominant and strong, and I actually wish I'd use more of that. Also, the yellows are very strong as well. So I think I have a little bit too much blues on this side, but I may just leave it like that. Also, this block here, they seem to be standing out a lot for me because they're just a little bit too close to each other. But that will be the problem. Because it's scrappy, you will find that you're seeing the same fabric all over the blocks, you know, all over the quilt top. So you may have an option to either decide to put all the colors together, which I did. So I did lay all the blues together, all the yellows together, and it looked like quadrants. So I had 4 of blues, 4 of floral, etc., etc. And to me, it just looked like 4 quadrants together to put up the quilt, and it didn't look mixed in. So I decided to mix it back up all again. However, it is a nice flow of the block. One of the good things about this particular block is that once you bring everything together, you do get that secondary pattern again here from the original pattern of making the block. All right, so with every intersection, you will get that secondary pattern. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like once it's quilted, and I think that's another complementary factor of working with scraps, because sometimes it just looks like way too much colors. There's just too much going on. But once the quilt top has been made into a quilt, for some magical reason, it just works. This is a very dominant color, that purple there, and that's the only one in that particular block. So I'm going to sew it together. So my advice to you is to look at yours through a lens, i.e. your camera, take a picture, and then you will see how it lays. And that's always a good starting point before you actually start to sew it together. Because once you've sewn it together, you are committed unless you want to unthread it. All right, so I'm going to sew it together. I'll get it basted. I was thinking of a quilt as you go, but because of the nature of it being where it is, I'm just a bit concerned about doing it in rows. So I think I would leave it as a normal quilt top, and then I'll make another, my next quilt will be a quilt as you go. All right, so let's move on. This beautiful quilt is now completed. This quilt measures 57 inches squared. This quilt is comprised of scrap fabrics made in the traditional sense of using strings, which is strips of fabric. For this particular quilt, I use a variety of quilting methods on each of the quilt blocks. Some were up and down lines, others were paisley feathers, some were swirls, some were wavy lines, meandering loop-to-loops. This quilt is absolutely gorgeous. It comes together very, very beautifully. As I look at this quilt, I can see all of the colors and the fabrics work together to form one. And it certainly reminds me of all of the quilts that I have made from these leftover fabrics. And that's one of the beauty of using scraps. On the white border, which I've used to frame and highlight all of the fabrics, making sure that your eyes can be rested as you travel along the border. The fabrics really work and complementary. I, however, use the binding fabric that's within here and a really strong blue to complement the whole tone of the quilt. This is beautiful. This is very beautiful. On the borders, I did very simplistic up and down for quilting and kept it really simple and beautiful. On the back, I use an all over fabric in the middle, and I pieced it with different color fabrics. As you can see, all of the quilting for the white border there, as well as the larger border on the front there. This has come together really beautiful, guys. Remember we spoke about when the blocks come together, we get a secondary block formation? Let me remind you of that. So that is one block there, and that is another block there. And we have a fourth block there, and sorry, a third and a fourth block here. But when we look together where all of those end joins, you can actually see another block there with all of the different colors really nicely. So this is absolutely gorgeous. It's a very constructive way of using up all of your leftover scraps, and certainly it's very useful if you make a really large quilt. You can use it as a bed quilt. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Share the video out. It certainly helps the channel to continue to grow. And I look forward to hearing from you. Do let me know down below if you think you can actually make this in a traditional sense. You can even use smaller strips of fabric. So bye for now. Happy quilting, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.